Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money. We like that. All in one place for totally free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your cellular telephone or your computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else, those other places that podcasts are heard.
Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, and when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&As and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free, zero catch. We've been using it ever since we started How Long Gone. And ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I feel like having the option of turning off the Q&As and the polls on the user dashboard has really helped boost my creativity and take it to another level. I highly recommend giving it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
What's up, TJ? What's up, Jaguar recording artist and DJ Them Jeans? How are you?
Hey, stupid! For our listeners at home, right before Chris, that's what Chris addressed me as, and I wanted to keep that Boricua energy going through the intro. I didn't want that to go to waste. But yeah, we are. Big day. If this is the first time you're listening to our podcast, you're welcome. We've worked hard over the last year and a half now. Mm-hmm. We've got 220 episodes of podcasts in the can. So it's at the top. It's just us and Dax Shepard.
Well, of course, we share the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with Dax Shepard. We actually have a flag that we've planted right next to his armchair flag. So it's nice to
Chris, it's not a flag. It's an anchor.
Oh, wow. Thanks to our sponsor, Anchor. But yeah, we did announce some big news yesterday via our friends at rollingstone.com. We are heading out on the road, coming to a
Didn't have to say the .com part, but yeah, go ahead.
Coming to a shitty city near you, no question. Tickets are available as you're listening to this. They will sell out. Maybe not Denver, but most of them will sell out. So just go get those before they go. We start October 1st. In my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, at the Earl, a place that I haven't been to in 10 years, and they just stopped letting people smoke inside probably 6 months ago. Sorry, TJ.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to turn the green room into a brown room, if you know what I mean.
Hey, yeah, there we go. You're going to shit all over the walls again? That's great.
It's going to be, sorry, yellow room. That's my color of American spirits.
Oh, I understand.
The carton will be waiting.
Of course, yeah, of course. But yeah, it's all exciting news, and we are doing a special project with our friends at Jaguar. So we are label mates with Bon Iver, Moses Sumney, Dinosaur Jr. You know, Jason, all joking aside, is pretty fucked up. Like, it's pretty fucked up.
Like, pretty fucked up good? Or
well, I mean,
fucked
like,
up bad, or just fucked up strange? I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, the fact that we have the same booking agent as My Bloody Valentine, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good, not nearly as good as it must make you feel, but
no, that's true. Unfortunately, scam artists were not interested in booking us, so we had to go. we had to go with High Road Touring, home of Wilco, Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah, my DJ career is going to blossom because of this. Now that I have some proper representation as the festival season, ramps up. Yeah. So I'm feeling good about that. You can hit up High Road Touring if you want to book me for your natural wine mixer.
Yeah, your wedding. Let's be real. But there's some sad news today too, Jason, that I want to tackle at the top of the podcast.
Something going on with Palestine?
No, Kate Bosworth is getting divorced. Kate Bosworth did announce her divorce day in a beautiful poetic statement on her Instagram. Where she said, you know what, their love is growing and changing.
Who was the boss clapping?
The boss was clapping this little skinny freak who definitely doesn't work. He feels like a scammer. You know what I mean? He feels like a scammer, and he will probably. I think he's a director. But
look. Just because you're tall and skinny and you don't work doesn't mean that you're a scammer, Chris.
Do you know anybody that's tall and skinny? Because I know you're tall, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the other stuff.
I would never.
You do work. You do yard work and stuff.
I do yard work as well as I'm proficient in typing. I don't know how fast I am.
When I think of the greatest typist in history, you definitely come to mind.
Bro, I mean, dead ass, I'm a pretty good typer. My only flaw, I mean, like, I remember when I was like in middle school, I would go to summer school classes and take typing classes. Then when I was a young bull, and they would put a sheet over the keyboard and over your hands, and you have to do everything.
I can do no look. It's like me
sight unseen.
It's like me walking down Broadway with the BlackBerry, bro. I can do no look. I'll hit the BBM no look, no errors.
Well, I mean, anyone can fucking type no look on a BlackBerry.
Well, the problem is that you still put two spaces after the period, which I've tried to tell you makes you look stupid. So I would like you to kind of switch that up if you don't mind. Now that we're kind of, this podcast is getting serious, it would be really nice if you
Chris,
could
kind of. You're so mad that I'm a published nonfiction author all over the internet, and you're not. You try to take me down with these little semi-disses, these little semicolon. It's not, nothing's going to stick, Chris.
No, I know, and
it does stick talent. But one thing that I do need to work on my writing, dead ass, Chris. I actually type too loudly. I like to smack those keys, and I like to
smack the keys too. But you have some heavy phalanges. You know what I mean? You have a status finger, if you will.
I'm well hung on all my extremities, Chris. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. Yeah, I do. Thank you for that.
I got a big old donkey finger swinging. You know what I mean, brother man?
Do you make a lot of errors because you're hitting two keys at once?
Oh yeah, that's two keys. I'm hitting 3-4 at a time. These big old hog legs swinging across my MacBook Pro.
Thank God for our friends at Grammarly.com for sponsoring the podcast.
You're so jealous of my Grammarly stats that they emailed me with. Oh, you're in the 97th percentile of people who use unique phrasing and words. Wow, your mind. I'm like, Grammarly.
Yeah.
Just because I'm paying you $9 a year or whatever, like, you don't have to gas me up.
You don't have to gas me up. Yeah. Well, that's nice of them, though. I think they want to keep you engaged. They have a good user retention. But I also have some other, RIP to Kate Bosworth's marriage, but I do have some good news.
Okay.
The Lemonheads official account did just retweet the new episode of Bandsplain where Yossi and I talked for 3 hours about the Lemonheads.
So all of your years of Notice Me... Notice me, Evan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the funny part about Evan Dando. Legendary guy, legendary name, dripping with swag, all this cool stuff, musical genius. But if you remove the Dando, he's just a guy named Evan.
Exactly. Much like the ballyhooed Broadway performance, Dear Evan Hansen. He shares the name.
Did you just look at this guy's trying to get his little Grammarly words up? Much like the ballyhooed Broadway performance.
Well, I'm going to start running all of our podcast transcripts through Grammarly to get my stats up. That's my new plan.
Because you're going to be piggybacking onto my shit.
Yeah, but you don't.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, I have a plan, but you don't worry about me, dog. I'll send you the stats.
Okay, so Evan. So Notice Me, Senpai Evan retweeted, and that means that he listened to you.
No, he definitely did not listen to it.
Can the Lemonheads afford a social media manager? Do they even care? I don't think that seems off-brand for them.
I mean, they have management. I'm sure Dando's not. Dando's not on. He was on Twitter and Instagram for a while, but now he just makes these freaky YouTube videos. Very cool. But yeah, I'm very happy.
Like Al Qaeda kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the Dando live stream, Al Qaeda kind of stuff. But it's been it was a nice journey with Yossi, and I love the guy. And if you're not familiar with the music, please listen to the show. And get familiar.
Shout out to Yossi. Shout out to Bandsplained, our broskies over at Spotify, the only DSP that matters.
That's not true, but sure.
You want to talk about platforms, baby? And we're not talking about.
We're on platforms.
We're not talking about red bottoms neither. We're talking about. Fuck Apple. Suck my dick, Apple.
No, well, let's not go that far.
Apple Music is trash, bro. You already know that, Chris, right? Now that we're getting paid, you can't really talk shit on Anchor and Spotify anymore. Okay.
Also, shout out to the guys over at the Hot Pod newsletter, Jason.
These fucking guys, huh? They think they're so hot.
Yeah, these guys that talk about podcasting in a paywalled newsletter gave us a sort of, I wouldn't say. I would say it was a little backhanded kind of assessment of our business. Would you agree with that, Jason?
It was a little back. I mean, I don't know if it was.
I liked
backhand. It was. I mean,
I liked
I've
it.
read Hot Pod as a newsletter for a while now, and I do check it out for like podcasting news. You know, you need to learn about all the things going on in the world, but
No, you don't. That's not things that are going on in the world. That's fucking dorks looking at their dicks. I'm good on that.
Things that are going on in my world. And if you don't think my world is cool, Chris, you could kiss my ass. So yeah, they just did a little write up about how it's like interesting that we signed with an indie music label and we're going on a tour and all these things that are, you know, unique for the podcast space compared to most people. Obviously, many different podcasts have done live shows with lots of success, but you know, the touring thing is starting to come back after COVID, blah blah blah. But it's not so much it was like backhanded compliments. It was more so a thing that I've seen with yours and my podcast, but also just other podcasts in general. And I kind of want to talk to our guest about this as well, because I think it's something that's got a little meat to chew on. But when you're like publicly like listening to a podcast is such a private, intimate thing that you have with yourself. You're listening on your headphones. You know, it's not something you gather the bros around and you all listen together and be like, oh, that's awesome. And if you do that for this podcast, thank you. But when people publicly admit what podcast they listen to, they always sort of have to like attach some type of
that's a good
qualifier
point.
to it.
That's
and it's always just it's kind of like a fuck, marry, kill scenario of like, whenever someone asks you like, oh, what podcast do you listen to? And then you do the smart one that makes you look good. And then you do the other thing that's like, yo, here's my like guilty pleasure. I just love this golf podcast. And then the third one is like something that you know is that you are somehow embarrassed by for whatever reason, but you just can't not listen to it for whatever reason.
That's why I only listen to one podcast that covers all of those bases. Thank you, Joe Budden, for providing me a fuck, marry, kill that covers all the bases, so I don't have to spend my time listening to some boring ass NPR shit that I don't want to listen to.
Yeah, you know, everyone's just like, I like the Daily. Of course, got to get my news in. You know, the most boring podcast ever. And then, you know, I listen to. I'm really, you know, then Bill Simmons because I gotta figure out what's going on with my hoops. And then the last one is just like, and then I don't know, like I don't think that they're great, but I follow this QAnon podcast, and like I don't know, like I think they just have really good flow and energy.
Joe Budden is my QAnon podcast, coincidentally, so that's kind of funny how that works. But we do have a guest today, a fellow Beechwood Canyon resident, Rosecrans Baldwin. You may be familiar with his work from the Gentleman's Quarterly magazine.
Shout out to Will.
Shout out to Will. Shout out to Sam. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Rachel. Rosecrans has written many books actually. But his newest one is Everything Now: Lessons from the City State of Los Angeles, which is kind of like an interview heavy like reportage about LA, which is an interesting take on your hometown. But he also started something called the Morning News, which was kind of like the triple OG link out in like 99. So basically the blueprint for what like the public announcement newsletter would like strives to be.
It was public announcement when Chris was in fucking diapers. This dumbass.
I was probably in a sweaty basement, but yeah, diapers is.
You just finished graduating from high school, or not graduating exactly. You know, your balls just dropped. A boy was becoming a man, and this guy was like, "Yeah, I'm over here doing links that are going to change." I'm
sending links out. Web 1.0. But the most interesting thing about Rosecrans is he's a big tennis player, and he you know, I went back today. He interviewed Federer for the cover of GQ. He's done a lot of tennis stories, but he's also done a lot of participatory journalism, which is a genre I love. Shout out to the GOAT, George Plimpton, and something that I strive to do. He's been thrown, he throws himself into these situations and makes the best of it. And then, you know, writes 7,000 words about it.
That's Chris's wheelhouse right there.
That is my wheelhouse. So
the work that Chris did at the Goop conference, so important.
Yeah. When I laid it all on the line underwater with those fucking Blue Lives Matter guys, I don't, you know, I did that for $300 so that you guys could be entertained. And I want you to remember that.
That's my favorite shit too. I love that stuff.
It's the best.
Immersion. It's hard for a guy like me to kind of fit in, you know, camouflage, go in unseen. being so tall and hunky, they're like, who is this guy? He's obviously not.
All right, well, look, let's give Rosecrans a jingle.
You got it. The Cran Man in the building. What the fuck is up?
What's really good, baby?
Oh, I'm so hydrated right now.
Oh.
I woke up really unhydrated, but are you guys familiar with the sports product Noon? N-U-U-N?
Oh, I'm familiar with the hydration tablets. Don't even get me started.
No, I've never heard of that. I only drink Ladder.
He gets those at the Gelsons. He gets those at the Gelsons down here on Franklin, Jason.
Must be nice, money bags.
It's a pricey item, but it really brings me a sense of contentment.
That's what my chick says about Laura Piana.
We had a guest over last night who wanted to drink some fine wine, and it lasted into the evening. And I woke up this morning feeling, just dusted.
You had a natty hangover.
Yeah, exactly. And coming to talk to you guys, and so I was like, okay, here we go. Let's really hydrate.
Jason podcasts hungover at least once a week, and it's kind of the best I can get out of him, to be honest with you. His defenses are down.
Yeah.
His humor is up. It's kind of what we shoot for here. So you're in great company.
Yeah, you're in good. The problem is it's just not sustainable for my mental or physical health, but it does make for good potting. Like literally yesterday, a girl sent me a DM just like, on this episode, like your voice sounds different. It's really soothing. You should do like AMSR videos and things like that. I'm like, what was I doing differently? Like, oh, I was like deathly hungover in Las Vegas. That's what it was. So that's all I need to do
to sound sexy. That's all you need to do.
I think you could there's a crossover potential here between both Pornhub and YouTube.
Now we're talking.
I'm hydrated. I've also got a really nice little Nespresso next to me and some seltzer. So I'm covering the bases.
My man has got the hydration. That's the white chick hangover pack. I like that. What kind of wine were you guys popping last night?
I hate to be cliche, but your natty wine reference was like on point because the gentleman who came over.
We know, sweetie. That's why we said it.
Thank God I was sitting down already, but
girl, the friend who came over is a restaurateur, and he enjoys bringing over wines and opening them. And so I can't tell you what we drank. I know there was an Italian one, and it was red and cold. I like a cold red, so it was a good time.
So how long have you been friends with John and Vinny for? Love those guys, baby.
The only time that I've had the John and the Vinny was this is going to be really lame in terms of references, but I had it at a pop-up at Sundance, and it was really good. Like the plates came out, and there were the meatballs and the pizza and the pasta.
No. We like John and Vinny's. We don't like that they play modern hip-hop while I'm trying to dine.
Sure.
That's our issue with John and Vinny's. If I have to hear Gold Digger while I'm eating a Jim lettuce salad, my night is not going the way I want it to go.
Listen, here's a question this is sincere. Have you smelled the hand soap there? I haven't. So I haven't been to the restaurant. Is the hand soap in the restroom offensive or is it mild? You know what I mean?
Interesting that you asked this because I'm kind of a hand soap aficionado and I have washed my hands there, I think.
I've never washed my hands at John and Vinny's. I have a bit of a problem.
I don't know if I've ever smelled. I don't know. Do you think it's a custom blend or do you think they're doing the old bait and switch, what a lot of restaurants do? They keep the Aesop bottle, but they put in their little broke boy shit, from the restaurant supply store.
Yeah, they fill it up with a little squirt bottle of something called Myrado. It comes out of Taiwan.
Crap, I didn't even know people did that. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, me too.
Rosecrans.
What makes me sick to my stomach, and this is in all truth, and I actually once wrote a letter to Danny Meyer's restaurant group in New York about this, is, people don't think about how important smell is to taste. So if you're sitting there enjoying your fine dinner that you're paying good money for and you're having a great time and the atmosphere is sweet and you go off to the restroom and you do your business and you take 20 seconds, as we do now, to wash your hands and you use the soap, if the soap is redolent of rosemary, jawbreakers, and a sprig of thyme, and you come back and you're trying to eat something that doesn't taste anything like that, suddenly the whole flavor of your meal has changed. So So I get pissed about that.
Oh, so kind of like how a golden restaurant rule is never have a scented candle because it'll fuck up
Exactly.
the flavor experience. Same thing now for the scent of a powerful hand soap as we're getting into the world of boutique and designer hand soaps that are, so powerful with their unmistakable scents. It's fucking up your palate as the amuse-bouche is taken away from your table.
If you're putting so much thought and effort into all these other aspects of the meal experience, just put some consideration into the hand soap. That's my whole argument.
Okay, so are you begging Danny for a more neutral scent, or what are you after exactly?
Sounds neutral.
I want nothing. I want no scent whatsoever.
Okay.
I don't want scent. I'm not looking for fabric softener in my restaurant experience.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think that's smart, actually.
Let me eat.
As kind of a fragrance guy, I do think the restaurant is not the place for it.
Yeah, especially if you're having like a fine omakase sushi meal, and TJ likes to eat sushi with his hands because he learned that you could do that on Jiro.
Sure.
I don't want the Santal scent as I'm popping that amaebi into my mouth. It's going to step all over the flavor.
No, that's crazy.
Listen, when in Hokkaido, do as Hokkaido. But yeah,
actually, speaking of Hokkaido, Rosecrans, I had a question that
you guys wait. Hold on. You guys talking about Al Qaeda? I said we ain't talking about that on this podcast, Jason.
Chris, just one question, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
From those guys.
Okay.
So I was having a meal or a convo with my life partner yesterday, and we were talking about because we were just in Vegas, and there's when we had some really good fresh fish when we were eating oysters and shit in Vegas, and we're like, this seems kind of wrong, to be eating fresh seafood over here in the middle of America in the desert.
Sure.
But obviously now they just ship it over in ice boxes from Japan straight ahead, and it's all good and it's fine. And I was thinking about the Santa Barbara sea urchin and the Hokkaido sea urchin, how so many sushi restaurants here in LA, they'll be flown in fresh from Hokkaido, this sea urchin is so amazing.
Sure.
Or they'll have the Santa Barbara sea urchin, also so amazing. Do you think that Japan flies Santa Barbara sea urchin into Japan, or they're just hell no, how would America ever have sea urchin as good as ours? What do you think?
Great question. Don't have much data
and
on
try
this
to make
one.
it I'm not trying to make it a culinary thing. I'm trying to make it more of a racial thing, if you could just weave that into your answer.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that coming. I think we export a lot of kelp. I think kelp from American shores ends up in for example, the Chinese market. I think there's a greater demand for your average American kelp farmer. So
okay,
why not? That's Santa Barbara. I mean, I'm not a big uni fan. I'm not a sea urchin aficionado. It's not something that I want scooped on top of my pasta.
Same.
What if it's emulsified into the sauce, though, Rosecrans?
I think, in preparing for this conversation, I did dig into the pot a little bit. I went back through a couple episodes, really enjoyed it. Also really I think there's an opinion in these circles against truffle oil. The idea of applying truffle oil.
We're haters. You're
gross.
right. You're right. And I think uni,
I've got similar vibes.
Uni is similar to truffle. I feel like it is the $50 add-on in a lot of areas.
It can be a vanity ingredient for sure, and shoehorned onto a plate that it does not belong. Not unlike the very popular lobster truffle mac that we were talking about a couple episodes ago.
All of my main ancestors are rolling over. Just throw it away. It's garbage.
But I'd like to think that truffle oil exists for a reason, because at some point there was there were iterations of truffle oil that were tastefully done and delicious. I think that it has become this vanity ingredient where it's kind of like an artificial flavor and it tastes like shit. It's like a stepped on, gasoline type of vibe going on. But I'm sure at some point, in the 1500s, people would take their fresh olive oil that they made in their wooden boxes or whatever, and they would pick truffles, and they had so many, and that they would preserve them in olive oil, and then you'd have this amazing oil to eat throughout the seasons.
I'm not going to let you continue to bastardize the good name of John Buscemi's truff sauce on this podcast. And you do it over and over and over. And I would just like to say, Truff, thanks for sending me the pack. I love the ketchup. I dip my fries in it all the time at home. So thank you.
This is bullshit. For that. Chris doesn't do any of that.
Chris, you're a scent guy. Like, I have a feeling there might be a history of truffle oil as something that one dabs behind one's ears. You know what I mean? Like, romantically, before people put it on fries.
Rosecrans, let me tell you something. When I'm trying to fuck a pig, I know exactly what to put behind my ears. You know what I mean? There's no question that I know what to do.
When you're out hunting that porcini, I hear that.
Exactly. I know exactly what to do.
A little white truffle shaving behind the ear. I'm hard as a rock, Rosecrans.
Beautiful. So glad to be here.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
I'm ready to So yeah, that's it. That's the pod.
No, but Rosecrans, I think we're neighbors though. Honestly, you live in Beechwood, right?
Oh yeah. Where are you in Beechwood? Or you don't want to give it away, but
give it away now.
No, unfortunately, there are protesters outside my house right now, so they've already kind of figured it out. But no, it's I'm midway up, I guess I would say.
Oh sure, okay.
You know what I mean?
I would say I'm Beechwood adjacent.
Oh, I thought you might be a little higher up. You know what I'm saying?
Chris, riders don't make that much. You know that.
He's got no, but I feel like our man's probably optioned some shit we don't know about. I think it keeps it low. You know what I mean?
You got a little Big Bang bucks. You do. Yeah. You ride a couple Big Bang theories?
No. All right. The years in the Condé Nast trenches lends you to a familiarity with certain luxury products and things that you put on pasta, and that may just give off a whiff of wealth, and it ain't there. Yeah, that's not happening yet.
I hate to hear that because we're rich, so it kind of sucks for us to talk to you. But I think that I love it. I love it over here, and you're an East Coast transplant as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you immediately fall in love with the swaying palm trees and warm temps, or did it take a little arm twisting?
I know that Rosecrans is anti palm tree, but yeah, please go ahead.
I do hate a palm tree, but I did love LA right away.
Don't look at my Instagram, bro. Shit.
No, when I heard that you had a venom running through your veins whenever you think about palm trees, it felt good because my brother, for the longest time, like he went to school for like architecture and stuff a long time ago, and he would just talk about how he hated palm trees so much. They're just a useless plant.
Yep.
They offer no shade. They suck up all the water.
Yep.
They don't belong here whatsoever. It's just some useless vanity thing. They ruin the sidewalks. The root system gets all fucked up.
I mean, how about the rats that climb up them and like shit on your car? I mean, I don't see
the rats.
Bro, don't.
The rats.
I like
it's true.
I just like the ones that give me 5G. Those are my favorite ones. I don't like the real ones. You guys relax. Much like truffles, I don't like the real ones.
I want the fucking palm trees that give me a little bit of that brain cancer, baby.
Yeah, that's what I like.
I mean, they're pretty. I dig it. And it definitely is iconic as part of the... Have you seen the new LA branding that they put out?
Don't flip-flop on it.
No, but seriously, like I was coming...
I saw the Los Angeles' new logo.
Yeah, by Shepard Fairley.
Shepard Fairey made that?
Obey Hive, baby.
Come
Stand
on,
up.
Shepard. That logo was a bum air, if you ask me.
I mean, it's cute.
It's not cute.
Does a city need... The question is, does the city need a logo? The answer is no. That's the reality.
Every city has a logo. Come on, Chris.
Yeah, but they don't need them. That's not, I'm not saying they don't have them. I'm saying the name of the city is the logo.
Well, literally nobody, when you really want to break it down, Chris, nobody needs a logo.
No.
You could just type it all in Times New Roman if that's what you want to do, but logos make the world come alive. Chris, I don't know about you, but I think that art is what makes us, separates us from animals.
I see.
Did you guys know that Los Angeles International Airport has its own theme song? It's called Los Angeles International Airport. It is a swell country hit from like 1978.
Randy Newman wrote that, or who?
A country song from 78 is the song about our airport?
That sounds fire. That sounds good.
I would love to Google it for you, but I don't have a computer in front of me. But it is by a woman. It sounds swell. It was a hit on the charts.
That's really cool.
What charts?
Yeah.
TSA charts?
I actually want to say it was big in New Zealand and Australia, but I also think in the United States.
Yeah, we love an international chart moment. You know what I mean? You can walk down the street in your home country, no problem, but you go to Germany, you're mobbed. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. That's the dream as a recording artist. I didn't know that actually, but LAX is...
What a great airport, you know what I mean?
Have you been to the new LaGuardia?
No, but so is it worth going to?
Bro,
I have stopped flying through there for years.
They got a water feature.
Take an
They got a
afternoon
juice-
and
they got a
down
juice
there.
press. It's fire. I mean, you can't, I only have used it to go to Atlanta from New York, because that's obviously easier than JFK, but I was quite impressed with the updates, I have to say.
Have you guys been through the private suite at LAX? Do you know about this? The sort of the portal for the wealthy?
Okay, Kanye. I'm familiar with it. I've seen, back in my TMZ days, I'd fish around the entrance, but I've never been able to enjoy it legally.
Yeah, the closest I've gotten is the Delta One portal, which is still not that. I know what you're talking about because they take you out in a car to the plane, correct?
Yeah, exactly. My life partner got hooked up with the opportunity by this guy named Gavin DeBecker. He's the head, or he was the head at one point, for Jeff Bezos' security. He runs a security company, but then he started this thing in which you can pay, I guess, about $3,500 and sort of, you go into this obscure gate. It's like on the side, rather than going to the airport, it's as if you're driving to the beach, like you're going to Dockweiler. But you pull up to this gate and there's a dude in a bulletproof vest and he slides back the gray wall. And then you are there parking your Honda Accord next to a couple Bentleys while you drop off your wife, and she's escorted to her suite, and there's a concierge. And the weirdest part is they have a private TSA. So it's like you and just one or two TSA guards who have nothing else to do except wait till you show up, right?
God.
And the rest of the time you're just hanging out in what's the equivalent of a CVS and a Sharper Image.
Yeah.
You have a little bathroom with all your little bathroom treats that you need for the flight that you didn't bring ahead of time. They've also passing out noise canceling headphones. They've got a menu from different restaurants you can order. And then you're just whisked off the plane. It's a pretty sweet setup when it's free.
And you experienced this yourself.
Life partner.
Your life partner. And she was like, "Damn, all this shit is for free."
I would $3,500 is not very expensive for that, to be honest. That I thought it would be a lot more than that, because you're not paying, you're paying commercial flight fee, but you just pay an extra $3,500. Still much cheaper than flying private,
depending on where you're going.
Still cheaper than flying private, right? And there's also, we heard about the weird flip that people do, wherein you will have business people flying into LA from China or other parts of the world, and they've got a meeting. So what they do is they book a conference room in this little place. So therefore, they land from wherever they're coming from. They don't have to deal with security. They get whisked off to the little private suite conference room, do their meeting, turn around, get back in the BMW, get escorted to their plane, get on when they want. They can be first on the plane, they can be last on the plane. And they turn around, and that's their experience of LA. It's just this tiny little bubble of a conference room where they're talking about collaborations or whatever they're doing.
I like that. I'm
that is fucking twisted.
Yeah, we're gonna work on our next sneaker collab at the LAX private.
Exactly. Yeah, I see that for you guys. That's
Look,
a very good idea.
Nobody likes a Zoom meeting, but at that point, let's just do it in a Zoom. If you ask me, the LAX to China flight is not the easiest trek.
Jason, you must not be familiar with mileage runs, then.
No, I know what they are. I know what they are. It's not a cool thing to do.
Are you guys both frequent flyers? Do you enjoy sort of hacking your travel and sort of getting the schemes going with the credit cards and stuff?
No, I'm not a hacker, but
Points guy.
Chris has been subscribing to the Points guy for what? How long? It seems like 20 years at this point.
I hate the Points guy because he's a fucking dork. But I think that I just have American Express cards that grant me Delta access, and I only fly Delta, so I reap the benefits of that. That's it. Mm-hmm. I don't care beyond that. But I don't want to pay for luggage. I want to sit in first class, and I want to board first. Sue me.
So sue me.
Listen, it's status and power.
I love status and power. Also, now I have this orange podcasting kit. I've got tennis equipment. I've got all this extra stuff where they don't really ask you questions when you're boarding that early.
Yeah.
They say, "Chris, you got 3 bags? Come on in." No big deal.
Now, are you carrying rackets on board, or are you checking?
I carry them on board.
1, 2, or 3?
Just 2, but I try not to bring the whole. Bringing the whole bag is obnoxious because I'm not good enough to do that. You know what I mean? If you're going to bring the Babolat on court giant bag, you better be a fucking monster.
You better be a player.
Exactly.
You better be either on a college team or you are traveling to a tournament.
That's what I
look
think.
Silly.
That's what I think.
You have to need it.
And my podcasting equipment, I feel the same way, but we're at the top of our game, so it's no problem. If you want to challenge me to a couple sets of podcasting, I'll fucking dust your ass.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Unfortunately, on the tennis court, I'm not quite there yet. So even having the rackets at all, I don't know if you feel this. it doesn't give me imposter syndrome, but it feels a little presumptuous, let's say.
I hear that. And I've got similar feelings emotionally. It's also, I don't travel or I don't buy matching rackets anymore. I used to always buy two of the same one when I got a new racket. Yeah. And these days I'm just buying sort of the new version of the model that I found is sort of my forever racket. Like this is a relationship. It's going to last a couple decades. We're going to put time into this. So I just keep buying the new one, but they don't look exactly the same on the cosmetic. And I worry that someone might look at me and think that I am less, obsessive about tennis than I really am.
I mean, look, you're probably a better player than us, so.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, we'll take your ass to Glendale and see what you're made of. You know what I mean? But if you're traveling with rackets, that means you take it relatively seriously. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think it shows the passion. And it also means that you've probably set up a game ahead of time wherever you're going, or else you're on the Talk Tennis message boards trying to be like, hey, I'm here. Who wants to play with me? And then you just end up with somebody that is probably not going to be all that fun to meet up with.
Your wife tells you that the hotel you're staying at has a tennis court, but then that sucks because you got to play against your wife, and she sucks, right? Well,
the trouble with my wife is that she grew up playing, which I did not, and so she doesn't play now. But when the rust comes off, she is holding strong in the rally, and I'm crumbling and making errors. So
that's the worst.
It's usually more that I'm hiring the pro at the hotel.
What kind of gear are we wearing? What kind of gear are we wearing?
Oh. These days, I'm really enjoying some Nike.
Hell yeah, bro. Checks over stripes, dog. You already know.
Mm-hmm. For a while, I was going all Yonex, which is a little bit obsessive, including the sneakers. Yeah. It's a high quality set of merchandise, and I love the rackets.
I didn't even know Yonex made shoes. Are they?
They are clumpy. Yeah, and they're like single color, white or black, but they're very, very sort of just big and bulbous, but a lot of stability. It's a nice shoe.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I've seen those before, and I like Yonex. Also made we saw recently a friend of ours point out they made a beautiful sweater vest, and one of their athletes is wearing it on court, which is fucking wild.
The 75th anniversary edition. It looks great.
They go wrong in a lot of ways, but then they sort of embrace it, like the Stan Wawrinka sort of diagonal plaid short that then became, an icon. Personally, the one thing I can't do is wear a polo.
What?
No, I can't do a polo. It's just tied into my background in ways that I really hate. It was like everything that I ran away from as a kid. I grew up in the suburbs of Connecticut, and it was sort of like, country club. And it just wasn't me, my scene. And I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. So I have not been able to divorce myself as much as I love seeing Nick Kyrgios, in a white polo over an undershirt. I just can't do it for myself.
I mean, look, as a member of Polo Hive, I wear one most days, whether it's on the court or off the court. And I grew up in the South, and I think we have a similar, I don't know. I don't know if the connotation is the same. It's just kind of like preppy to me, but I feel like in Connecticut, it's like they give you one at birth. So it feels different.
That's true. Yeah, it comes with the Volvo. Like it's inside the Volvo and your Patagonia sticker on the back and the fact that you row crew or some shit. But before I lived in the South, I didn't realize how preppy some parts of the South are. We used to live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina before we moved to Los Angeles. And good God,
baby. We'll show up with the
super prep.
Good God.
I got the chinos pressed. I got the Sperry's on the feet. You know what I'm saying?
I got Vineyard on my back.
I got Vineyard. I got the sunglasses on the Kuroki. The Yeti in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Chapel Hill. That's funny. Chapel Hill came up on our last episode. Our friend Emma, a British writer, did her abroad.
Oh no shit!
In Chapel
As an
Hill,
undergrad.
Yeah, and I think she was like, it was just insane. I don't even know.
It's a beautiful town. I mean, there's certain things that are really pretty special about it. College basketball being one of the top parts of it. My whole wife's family either taught at or were educated at or have worked for the University of North Carolina, and she went there for a little while. And
thank God it wasn't Duke.
Joel, that's the thing, right? Because her grandfather, you could not say Krzyzewski at the Sunday dinner table. It was just a banned piece of jargon. And so while I was living there, I really got hooked up. My father-in-law has had season tickets for 30 years. I think he's missed 11 to 14 home games in 3 decades. So he's a dedicated fan, and he would bring me to the games. And so I just saw a whole lot of college basketball, but the requirement was I had to be up on the player's social media because he's not exactly on Twitter, let's say. Mm-hmm. And so I had to be finding out who's the girlfriends, where are they going out to eat, what's the scuttlebutt around trades coming up, that sort of thing.
So you had to sing for your supper when it came to those season tickets. What do you bring to the table, young blood, is what he might have said.
Yeah. Dude, I swear, so when we got engaged up in Woodstock, New York, and we're out in the countryside, and we are looking to call our folks and share the good news, and the cell phones aren't working, and the phone in the bed and breakfast is out of operation. So we hop in the car, we've got a bottle of champagne, we find an abandoned filling station, and there is a payphone, out there. So we get on the phone, and Rachel is speaking to her parents, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to talk to them?" I get on the phone. My mother-in-law, super sweet, is going on for 2 or 3 minutes, welcome to the family. So glad to have you here. Love you so much. And she says, Mike is my father-in-law. And she's like, "Mike, do you want to say something?" And there's just a pause. And he comes in and he says, "It takes a special kind of man to love his son-in-law when his son-in-law doesn't know the first thing about Carolina basketball."
Wow.
So it started there.
Wow. This is not
and got schooled.
This is not a game. Damn, that's serious, man. Yeah, the South is crazy. I mean, it's hard to explain to people if you've never lived there.
You're like, "Bro, I'm from Connecticut and I live in New York. Why would I know about North Carolina basketball?"
Yeah, I don't care.
There is some line I think that Tina Fey had about she went into Lorne Michaels' office, and Lorne Michaels was wearing a tuxedo, and she's like, "Why are you wearing a tuxedo?" He's like, "I am not a farmer. Why would you not expect to see me in a tuxedo?"
I remember.
Shout out to Lorne.
Well, now luckily you've got tar running through your veins, don't you?
Yeah. I get back occasionally, but it's been LA ever since. It was, we lived there for a little bit, and after a while you eat everything at every restaurant and you're just like, I need something new. So the big city called.
How much time did you do there?
We did a couple years. We were coming from Paris, France. We lived in Paris for about 2 years, and we were like, we want to get back to the States, but we want to live someplace, again, not living high on the hog as writers, but we could live out in the country, but be near friends and family. And so Chapel Hill became the place to be.
That's a long way from Paris, I guess.
Well, it's the Paris of the Piedmont is what people call it in Chapel Hill. So they have some connections.
I've heard that as well. Well, and it kind of makes sense because, I mean, your name just seems like a Southern lawyer. You know what I mean? So I feel it was inevitable you're going to get down in there into the Carolinas with a seersucker suit, fanning yourself with a Sunday church program, sitting a spell, things like that.
Let me tell you, I was playing, I hate to bring this around to tennis again. I know this is not a tennis pod, but there are not many pods that go heavy into tennis. Anyway, I got into this tournament, and I was playing a doubles tournament. And so my partner and I would go over to meet the team that we're playing against. And this is an older gentleman of the good old boy variety. And he comes up, we shake hands. He says his name is, David or something. And I said, my name is Rosecrans. And he goes, Rosecrans? Like the girl? And I was like, motherfucker, what girl do you know named Rosecrans? Where does that come from? But seriously though, being out in LA now, it's a lot easier because people grow up listening to Tupac, or they've seen the street name here.
Yeah.
Most often people just are like, is that your pen name? Or are you an amalgamation, bizarrely, of Los Angeles place names? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess the Baldwin as well, huh? I didn't even think about that.
Some Baldwin Hills, also a fine place to play tennis. But I still have to use a Starbucks name. I have to I usually go with George. Yeah.
Damn, are you a member of Green Straw Mafia?
What is Green Straw Mafia?
You a buck boy.
That's what they call Starbucks on Red Scare. So I've tried to adopt that on this podcast because it's really funny. It's really funny.
I don't think you're going to get that sponsorship dollars from Starbucks.
Which flavored sous vide egg bite is your favorite? There's one right answer.
I have yet to try the sous vide egg bite.
I mean, if you love travel, that is the ultimate. That's the ultimate travel hack.
Okay, well, no. So here's the hack. I'll tell you. I was on a story, and this was back when France and the United States were not exactly best friends, and there were things like freedom fries.
Talking about World War I, baby?
Okay.
Got it.
More recent. It's on that sort of George Bush
Yes,
tip.
yes.
In any case,
My favorite painter. Shout out to George. I know you're listening.
Oils, watercolors, the man can do it all. It's what they teach you in Skull and Bones. Anyway, so I was on this trip. The assignment was go to, backstory. There are approximately 24 to 26 cities or towns in the United States called Paris. There was this idea that we could have Rosecrans go around and talk to people and figure out what is the state of U.S. France relations by going to, we chose 6 places, Paris, Maine, Paris, Kentucky, Paris, Texas, which has an enormous Eiffel Tower with a red cowboy hat on top. Paris, Idaho, which has a population of like 200 people. And then I spent 24 hours without sleeping in the Paris Casino and Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I was in an airport. So it's a lot of travel. It was about 2 weeks. And I'm walking around the whole time with this clipboard. I've got a form that I'm sort of asking people questions about how they feel about French people.
Baguette over your shoulder.
And I go at Salt Lake City Airport, or maybe it was in Boise. I don't know. I get off the plane. It's a red eye. I need some caffeine. And there's a Starbucks right next to the gate. So I get a double espresso, which is my standard order. And I walk to the rental car, put down the double espresso. I get the rental car. And I forget about the coffee I just bought, but I notice that there's a Coke machine. So I buy a bottle of Diet Coke, my favorite kind of Coke. And so now I have realized the mistake I've made is that I've got a double espresso and I've got a Diet Coke. And so I ended up pouring out some of the Diet Coke into a trash can and then pouring the double espresso into it just to be like, let's see how this goes. It was delicious. It's like a really sort of tasty, sparkly kind of booster drink. Which then, about a month later, I was visiting my wife's brother lives up in Palo Alto, and there was quite a nice shopping mall. You know, outdoors, California, espresso bar by the door. And I'm in line, and there's a young co-ed in front of me. You know, presumably a co-ed.
Hey.
She appears to be, you know, a Stanford student or something. And it's her turn to order. She says, "Can I get a double espresso?" And then she says, "By the way, do you guys sell Diet Coke?"
Oh.
And my ears are perked up and they're like, yeah, we can do that. And so she takes them. She said, "Well, you can just put them in the same cup."
No.
And so I don't know if I tapped her on the shoulder or I sort of captured her attention by doing something. And I say, "Excuse me, like, do you order that? Is that your thing?" And she's like, "What?" And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like creep. Like I've never met someone else who orders it. Like, do you have a name for it or anything like that? She's like, "Uh-huh." And then that was it. Like, I was just being super Mr. Creep, like in the espresso bar line.
Well, I mean,
so
in her defense, you shouldn't have dropped down to one knee and pulled a ring out. Because that's kind of what I would have done if I was in your situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, tapping a co-ed on the shoulder these days, you got to get a consent form before you do that, even if it's just
That's
about
right.
Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Take it from
what I mean?
Chris.
Yeah.
Why don't we name this beverage live on How Long Gone then?
Okay, perfect. What do you guys think? Where would you go with this one in terms of
Okay,
branding?
so it's a double espresso. Obviously, Starbucks is known for their perfect espresso pulls, not bitter at all.
I have it.
Okay.
We're just gonna call it the Diet Doppio.
The Diet Doppio. I mean, shit.
Rolls off the tongue, Jason. Do you not?
The
agree?
alliteration is really sweet in the mouth in terms of the mouth feel.
I mean, we're not married to that.
Well, Starbucks literally calls their double espresso Doppio. You can't. They like when you call it that if you order.
What
it.
about a Cocchio then?
Where did that come from? Them using random Italian words.
It's on the menu. That's how they list a double espresso is the Doppio.
I love your accent.
Also, is Venti Italian for extra large, or is it? Isn't it like the name for the numeral 20?
Yeah, it's 20.
I don't get their number.
They just do their thing, bro. Look, most people that are
Okay.
most Green Straw Mafia members, they ain't fluent in Italian, and they ain't ever been there, and they ain't ever going to go there.
Yeah, if you ask a Green Straw Mafia member, any of these questions will be like, yes, too many questions. All right, now go to Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf if you want to be so inquisitive.
I don't. What's your local
Facts don't matter.
What's your local bean of choice, Rosecrans? If you don't mind me asking such a personal question.
Love the question. Appreciate it. Thank you for asking that. I am right now. There's a great roaster, actually, oddly enough, out of Atlanta called Portrait. I've been doing the mail order from Portrait for about a year now.
Portrait?
I get a bag every 2 weeks.
Portrait of a Bean.
Portrait was a great screamy hardcore band that I grew up with. I wonder if they're involved in this. But I'm
could you imagine?
There's a coffee
the synergy.
There's a coffee from Atlanta called Perk, which is insane that they've named it that, like Percocet, PERC. And I keep seeing it everywhere. I'm like, this is insane. Like, are they marketing it as like I'm going off the perky? Or do you think they're just, I can't tell what they're doing.
Well, I guess it depends on their branding and marketing. Like, is it appealing to the, 13-year-old face tat set?
No, it's not.
Or
no.
It's
okay.
I'm assuming not.
It's made for my sister. But so you like the Perk, but where are you going in LA? Like, are you hitting Maru? Are you hitting?
Yeah. What's our local roastery in LA?
I really enjoy Go Get 'em Tiger. I've been hitting them up in Los Feliz.
So that's to Go Get 'em.
We accept, even though they have the worst name for a coffee shop maybe ever invented. We accept.
I mean, I don't know if this is like bad to admit, but like I do enjoy Dunkin' Donuts. I think that's like, I'm fine with that.
Oh no, you're not going Dunkies.
Yeah, wait, is there hate for Dunkies?
Not on this microphone, brother man.
What are you, bro? What are you fucking Ben Affleck? Who do you think you are?
Dude, I grew up in New England. I mean, I went to college in Maine. Like, it's
good
the only
point.
thing
Good
to
point.
drink.
You're fucked. You get a donut there. You just get in the cold brew in a 42-ounce cup.
I love a cold brew, love the donuts. I actually was for a while enjoying their croissants, and I know that's ridiculous,
bro. You're blacking the fuck out, bro.
This man lived in Paris, and he's like, "Have you tried the croissant from Dunkin'?"
Listen, I love a croissant. What can I say?
So you're saying you'll eat a croissant from Publix. You don't give a fuck. You just love the flaky butteriness of a croissant.
I love fried chicken from Gelson's. Like if it's
love
tasty,
that chicken from Gelson's.
Love that chicken from Gelson's.
No, Gelson's makes a good fried chicken, but also a Gelson's fried chicken. That's what, like 7 times what Popeyes costs.
True.
But a croissant from Dunkin', I mean, it was probably 75 cents, but you saying it's really something special? I'm
saying it's not as horrible as you might think. And since we're on the record, I do want to say that I made a slip of the tongue. I meant to say Vaughn's, not Gelson's. Gelson's, I've had the chicken tenders. Vaughn's fried chicken is where it's at. And their tortilla chips.
Oh, interesting.
Rose knows. Gotta say.
Don't give him his new food column idea title like for free.
That's good branding.
We charge for that.
This is grabbing me by the ding dong because I've been thinking a lot about kind of the backlash of like kind of these vanity foods sweeping away these utilitarian pedestrian foods that we've known and loved for so long. Like an example is like a loaf of white sandwich bread being replaced by the Justas and the Bub and Grandmas and these like challenging, whole grain loaves, and how, I kind of miss that stuff. And like, you got a big old loaf of bread. It's hard to slice into it. It's kind of a pain in the ass. You got to freeze it because it's going to go bad in 3 hours. I'm starting to miss, the Dunkin' Donuts as the Vaughn's fried chickens, all that stuff.
I hear that. I think it ties a lot into, I don't know about you guys and what you grew up eating, but like my mom was the cook, but didn't enjoy being the cook. And so the food, and I think she would be fine with me saying this to your audience, was not exactly, the finest cuisine, but she would make a ham sandwich on Pepperidge Farm wheat bread. So Pepperidge Farm whole wheat bread, a little bit of mayonnaise, and then some, I think it was probably Oscar Mayer, deli ham sliced on top of that. And that's still my go-to. I actually ate that last night at 2 a.m. after I did the dishes. I made the ham sandwich. I just needed that.
My man was twisted last night. Damn, bro. You had a ham sandwich and smoked a cig inside? That's fucking crazy, dude. It couldn't be me.
I'm starting to get a picture painted of like Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time. You're just alone. You got your Wranglers on. You just cracked a Coors Banquet, and you're making a ham and cheese on pepper.
Never Coors.
Okay.
First of all, never Coors. You can't drink Coors. I mean, if you're gonna go there, you're gonna go Miller Lite, which is a great beer. But I can't do Coors.
I have a similar thing with my mom. Like my mom can't cook for shit, and she's fine with that. And like she's it's fine. Like she doesn't care. It's just like, yeah, I did it, and I'm happy to do it, and I love you, and here it is. It's not like a passion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm surrounded now by so many people where cooking is their passion that it's like it's like exhausting.
Well, here's a question for you guys: the couples that you knew, for people as you say, life partners. Do you see more of the gentlemen or more of the ladies doing the home cooking?
Fellas.
I know so many guys that like care about their cast iron in a way that they, seem to care about their children. Like it's just the devotion and the time and like the thought that goes into it. And also like the rage if you fuck up their cast iron pan, like you just decide to do the dishes.
You didn't know that.
So many mistakes.
I guess you didn't do your research, but Jason did a year upstate for, some domestic after his after his pan got cleaned when he was out of town. I don't want to reveal too much, but it was not pretty and it cost us a lot of money to get him out. Cost him a lot of money to get him out. There was some damage to the house, it was a whole thing.
But why do you
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean what happened to me in San Quentin I will never speak of again. But what do you think it is about, is it Bourdain's fault? Is it Bobby Flay's fault? Is it Guy Fieri's fault? Like, what do you think has caused this uptick or is it just the opposite of like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s of like media pushing it into the minds of women that you are the housewife and the man is the provider, so you are the cook and the man doesn't do that? Is it girl boss related is what I'm asking?
Yes, it is girl boss related for sure. The person that I looked to that got me interested in cooking was Jeffrey Steingarten. And he was the Vogue food columnist before foodie culture took off, before, foodie culture was online, when people were still going to Chowhound and like, I don't know. There was just the food culture was all about sort of Saveur magazine. And I'm talking about sort of like New York, bushy sort of food culture. But Steingarten was just doing these wild articles for Vogue, where he would just call in all these products or he would go around and taste all these things. And he just really set me off into sort of wanting to like think about food and he's the one that got me cooking too. Like I hadn't cooked before that. And there was a terrific magazine called Gastronomy that was coming out of the UK. I think it was done in Oxford, which may still be around, but like these beautiful small little volumes, and you're just getting weird recipes from all over the place, worship of French cuisine, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Actually, when you were saying Jeffrey Steingarten, I'm like, I know that name. And then I was like, you're not talking about Jeffrey Garten, Ina's husband. But then I looked it up. He was, wasn't he a judge on Iron Chef or something?
Oh, goodness. He might have been. I think I missed that season, which is to say I've never watched that show once, so I have no idea. But
well, you look, bro, we all know those Condé checks are a little light. He had to get his little TV bag. He had to get his little TV bag.
Yeah, he was the original judge on Iron Chef America. And I always loved him. I didn't know. I mean, I was watching that, when I was younger and a little green in the kitchen. But I was always like, who is this like old guy who has these like perfect points about everything? And I always looked up to him, and I completely forgot about him in every way. And now it's all coming back to me. I'm also Jeffrey Hive till the casket drops.
Listen, one of his first articles that I loved was that he talked about, in order to become a food writer, he had to erase the idea that there were certain foods that he didn't like to eat. So he came up with like a list. I think one of them was like Greek desserts. He had all this hate for Greek desserts. But he was trading on the social science that if you try something, that's prepared well, I think something like 7 or 8 times, you can develop a taste for it. The same way that a child grows up saying, I hate tomatoes, but eventually he's like, I love tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So he trained himself around these 7 or 8 things that he had to learn how to eat. And I guess he loved Greek desserts by the end of it.
I'm in the middle of doing that with ketamine right now. It's still an uphill battle, but I'll be there soon.
The K-hole? That is a terrible idea.
No. He's finding his sea legs. Don't worry.
Yeah,
it's not.
I'm using it for therapeutic purposes only. Don't worry. Well, speaking of food and speaking of the bean, best bean and cheese burrito in LA. What say you, Rosecrans?
Alan B's is an obvious choice. Less obvious is Del Taco. I just love a Del Taco drive-thru.
Oh no! Stop flirting with Jason in front of me. This is not that kind of podcast.
I didn't know, gentlemen.
Okay, well, question for you: which bean and cheese? How do you order the bean and cheese at Del Taco? Do you go red? Do you go green? Or you do Christmas style?
I didn't even know Christmas style was an option. I go green.
Well, you can go red and green together. Just to let you know.
Wow. Okay.
Just to let you know.
Okay, well then next question. Do you ever go bold on your bean and cheese at Del Taco?
Wait a second. What is this like secret menu that I didn't know about? What is going bold on it?
Well, the same way you grew up in the country clubs of Connecticut, I grew up in the nasty, crime-ridden streets of Orange County, the hub of Del Taco. Del Taco runs through my veins. I've been going there ever since I was a youngster, so I know it in and out. It's in my blood. But
no pun intended. No pun intended.
But you can order any burrito item at Del Taco bold, which is the inclusion of French fries and their patented creamy white tangy sauce.
Hooah! That's almost Persian.
Hooah! Almost Persian.
Well, some white sauce, yeah, sure. Like get some za'atar in there too, and you'd be fully on trend.
Yeah. It has a halal guy's energy with that white squirt, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you go to Del Taco in Beverly Hills, you can going bold means they put actually cherry rice inside of the bean and cheese. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool addition to the menu.
Just a little Del Scorcho, a little labneh, and it goes down a treat. Okay, so Rose, I mean, it seems like you and I have very similar culinary sensibilities. I'm glad that the internet and the literary world was able to bring us all together.
Listen, I love the pod. I've been enjoying the pod in preparation for this. I've been, digging. I think you guys have an appreciation for diction, for an idiom, for colloquialisms that not.
Bro, we don't know what any of those words mean.
Look, bro, some of these other podcasts are run by nerds. Let me just put you onto that.
What the fuck did you just call me? Idiom?
Don't call him a fucking idiom. I'll whip your ass, bro. You're right down the street. No, but I think, look, there's some nerds out there podcasting, and you got to come over to the dark side if you want to have a little more fun.
Exactly. Fuck those guys.
And
No. I think long form is a good podcast, Rosecrans. I wouldn't talk shit on them like that so openly.
I wasn't putting Jason. Yeah, I'm not going to put them in the hot seat.
I just saw those dorks got their little bag. They signed a Vox deal today.
Really?
Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
Those fucking dorks.
I love to see it. Great podcast.
They're not dorks, so we're just kidding. Yeah, Longform is a classic one. We would never sign with Vox, of course.
No. We only sign with legacy indie rock labels. So you can keep your little money, Spotify.
Or Spotify. No. We want Spotify money. Editing, note to Jason, edit that part out. But as you were saying, you have been listening to this podcast a little bit. But as a writer, writer, journalist, etc., whenever you're going to interview somebody like a Federer or whoever, obviously you prepare, you take notes, you do certain things. You might have a routine by now since you've been doing it for so long. But how do you prepare to be on a podcast?
Ooh. Well, let's see. How do I prepare to be on a podcast? And I guess I just listened to a bunch, and then I think I followed both of you on Instagram and started trolling through your backlogs just to sort of get a sense of the aesthetic. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's about it. I guess I just have to listen a bunch. I guess everyone's sort of saying like everyone needs to have a podcast. I've heard that from our manager. I've heard that. I just don't see. I feel like it takes a lot to be a good podcast right now. I don't think people appreciate that it actually is quite hard. So
yeah.
Do you guys feel that way? Do you feel the effort? Do you go home tired?
Yeah. Well, I don't. We do a lot of episodes, so in that way, yeah. But I find it pretty enjoyable. Like I don't look at this as like. And our research is probably less exhaustive than yours, to say the absolute least. But it's like it's fun. I don't know. It's like and I was in this case particularly. It's like I'm familiar with your work. And it works out that he has a new book out. Like let's do it. It makes sense. It's pretty. It awesome. Makes all the sense in the world.
It's probably. I think it's very similar to like if you're about to interview, I'll bring up the Roger Federer as an example again. But if you're going to write a piece about Roger Federer, that's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to have the interview and the notes, and you're going to get outlines, and editor's going to come back and blah blah blah. It's a whole process. It could take weeks or whatever.
No, you have phone calls with Anna Wintour. I ended up talking to her from her town car because they were so concerned about making sure this goes right.
Damn, now we're talking. Now we're getting into Chris's zone. I'm trying to build.
But to that. Like when you were actually sitting down in a hotel lobby restaurant with Roger Federer and interviewing him, that's the fun part.
Yes.
And then all the work afterwards where you piece it together, that's
Jesus Christ,
that's the rewarding part.
No.
Then it's also more difficult. But when me and Chris spend an hour talking over Zoom, That's the fun part for us, and then all the other stuff is kind of the taxing, difficult part for me.
This, I would say, is I hear you and disagree, but with affection. For me,
go on.
Coming on to a podcast that I know ahead of time that the gentlemen running it are interested in food, tennis, Los Angeles, coffee, workouts, things that are just part of my, I don't know what we're going to say, like wheelhouse. Great. This is a familiar territory. So let's have fun. But like, for example, Mr. Federer, is one of the most like fucking famous people in the world and has been interviewed a billion times. And so I was like nervous as heck going into it. And I was like, okay, so here's an example. Like I was trying to find common ground with him as fast as possible because when I first saw him, he was in his underwear. Like I showed up and they were sort of trying him into outfits for the next day. And he's like, "Oh, I'll be there in 1 second, Rosecrans." And I was like, "Great, thanks, Roger." And so like, my stomach is boiling so here's the thing. Like I reached out, I didn't quite know what I was going to ask him. And Ms. Wintour was like very clear, like the one thing I should not ask him because she's close with Mr. Federer and Mr. Federer's wife, or they were at the time, to the point that
a little too close in his wife's opinion. I bet.
No, Roger told me about this. Roger's told me that like when he and his life partner are getting ready for special events, or at least at this point, they would take photographs with their phone of like what they were going to wear, and then they would send it to Ms. Wintour for approval or her thoughts on the gear. So sick. Right? So I'm now like, I've got all this in my head. I'm sort of really on top of my nerves, which is to say like I'm floating above the seat, and we're in his big ass Mercedes, like driving off to a restaurant. We were supposed to go hiking. But then it was like, no, it's snowing outside. Let's go to lunch because we don't want to damage.
Is he driving you or are you being driven?
Oh, no. This is Roger's in the driver's seat. Okay. This was great. Okay. Oh, no. Listen. And Roger this is funny. Roger's a fast driver. And I think, you can be, I don't know what the speed limits were in this tiny little valley, but there's also.
So are you in Switzerland doing this?
Yeah, sorry. Let's do the backstory. So Here's what's happening. I'm in Los Angeles 5 days beforehand, and Rachel and I are moving apartments. And so we were living previously in West Hollywood, and we're moving over to Beachwood Canyon. And my editor, the great Dan Riley at GQ, calls up on Monday, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing on Thursday?" I think it was. And I was like, I'm moving apartments. He's like, "Well, could you go hiking with Roger Federer?" Now, obviously, this is like I've never had a question asked of me like that. I mean, I'm being taken to like the best prom of all time.
And you're like, "Yeah, what time should I meet him at Griffith?" And he's like, Swiss Alps, actually.
So the movers come the next day. I like sort of work with them, the stuff over to the new place, get the Uber to LAX, get the plane to Zurich, get the train to this little town, get in the bus, get into the hotel at like midnight, wake up. Now, nice touch of this hotel, not exactly sort of super luxe, but it does have an espresso machine in the room. So do that. And then I'm meeting Mr. Federer. So Roger drives us. He's like, "Listen, it's snowing. I don't want to go hiking." This is like 3 weeks after he had won the Australian Open in the big comeback where he had taken time off from the tour for the first time. And so Roger's like, "Let's go to this place. It's where we go for lunch with the kids." And I was like, "Great. They have a private room." So he's driving us in his large SUV. And here is where I'm like, shit, like how do I touch base with Mr. Federer? And so in my research, I'd found out that his mom was South African, and I had lived for 6 months on a study abroad thing during college in Cape Town. And I lived with these pair of drug dealers. They used to import weed in these coffee cans. And one of them threw a party one time, and they sort of was like, house music, sound system, black out the windows, put in egg crates. They had like 3 televisions, each one's showing a different Star Wars. There's like a bowl of avocados at the top of a mattress.
Bro, you're describing my 20s right now a
lot. So there's the DJ, there's the setup, and it's like 3 a.m, and this dude offers to share a joint with me, and I was like, great. And so we smoked the joint, and I was like, man, and I start feeling this tingling on the edge of my skin, and I was like, what was in that? He's like, oh, it's the only way I can do heroin anymore. And I was like, well, okay. Sick. I went back to my bedroom, I locked the door, I got in my sleeping bag, and I put on OK Computer and just listened to OK Computer probably like 19 times in a row.
This is literally Jason. This is literally Jason.
Much like a fine wine and a nice steak, you can't listen to OK without a little H-y, baby.
You get to that moment with Roger Federer where it's like, oh, I believe your mother is South African. Yes, my mother is South African. Oh, I studied in Cape Town. And then there's this pause. And I was like, well, what fucking story do I tell? But he thought it was hilarious. He started laughing. Suddenly we're having a good time. And then I can get to the questions that I've actually prepared. I actually had a friend, a guy I hit without here, who is a Federer obsessive, has the gear, has watched all the matches, really has an emotional investment in Roger's career. And so I hit him up. I was at LAX. I was at the bar having a beer before I got on the plane. And I just texted him out of the blue being like, listen, about to get on a plane. When I land, it would be great, 2 or 3 of the questions that you would really, really want to ask him if you had the chance. And then I got on my plane. And I landed in Zurich and, flipped my phone on. And he's a lawyer. He has taken a legal pad and written out 5 pages of questions. And he's crossed out half of them. And it's just he's saying you were playing that match at Cincinnati in 1999 and it was you and Verdasco, second set. But I'm not sure where that story came from, but it was the best assignment of my life. Easily.
No, it's great. And if you guys haven't read the story, what was GQ cover story? 2017?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I think if you just Google Federer Rosecrans, I guess it'll give it to you.
Did you become more of a Fed fan after that?
I actually because he was a sweetheart, and he was quite funny and he's a real dork. He's very, and I don't think he would disagree with that, accusation. I think he's a real sort of goofball in person. And so that just charmed me in a way before he'd seemed so impervious. So I came back, I went to the racket doctor and I bought a Federer hat. I still have it. It's ratty at this point, but yeah.
Sure. I'm not a Federer guy, but I like how rich he looks. He looks rich.
Whereas I am a Federer guy. At first I was I didn't like him at all when he was in his heyday. And I hated the gear, the RF logo. It just looks so pretentious and kind of douchey.
Yep.
And then in the last couple of years, I started going back and watching old tennis matches on YouTube just in the background during the quarantine while I was working. And I just fell in love with Federer's style. I just loved him. I loved how he would just do kind of wacky, goofy shots. And you couldn't really tell what was going on in his head. But whenever it was time for him to turn it on, and he would just dominate and just humiliate people, and I really related to that style of play.
Yeah, you relate to it, but you aren't able to put it into practice. Rosecrans, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
On How Long Gone, and everybody go cop the new book wherever you buy books, bookshop.org, Skylight, we could go on forever. And where else can they find you on the World Wide Web?
On the World Wide Web, you can hit me up at rosecransbaldwin.com. I hate to sound too much like a plug. I do have a story coming out in GQ next month about whatever happened to American men's tennis. So that's probably the next thing that's going to be hitting.
Wow. Let's go.
Yeah, it's sort of the American women, unbelievable champions, and they just don't stop. And yet, since Andy Roddick, took the U.S. Open and then started losing in finals to Mr. Federer, we've been wandering the desert.
We got nothing.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, Jason Stewart is here. So the last great hope. He's 40. His knee's bad, and he's 6'9". But if we get him, if maybe he should go talk to Raj and see what we can do.
And I still beat Chris at tennis every single game. And you can check out the book "Everything Now" by Rosecrans Baldwin. And the next time you come on this podcast, Rose, we'll even talk about the book. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe we'll get around to it.
Sounds great.
Thank you. No, but honestly, thank you for joining us. Big fan of your work, and we're really happy to talk to you.
Awesome. I'll see you guys on the courts.
We'll see you on the court. We'll see you in Glendale, baby. We'll send the Mercedes. We'll talk to you soon.
Goddamn right.
Okay, bye, guys.
All right, later.
Standing in that silent hall, waiting for that final call, says he doesn't love me anymore. Shaking hands, I pack a bag, trembling voice, I call a cab. Slowly I start walking to the door. He blows his horn, I stumble out in the early morn, tell him of the place I've got to go. Hit 100 signal lights, Peterbilt's and a traffic fight. Getting through these doors has been so slow. LA International Airport, where the big jet engines roll. LA International Airport, I won't see him anymore. The stewardess in a miniskirt, a hippie in a leather shirt, started on the way to Naples Road. While I'm wondering U.S. diplomat. College kids are trying to get back. Oh, baggage cart goes quickly by. See my case and I start to cry. Stumble to the lounge to be alone. And while I'm trying to get some rest, I bite my lips and try my best to fight the pain that's making me leave home. L.A. International Airport, where the big jet engines roar. L.A. International Airport, I won't see him